It's time for journalists to pull back the curtain on an important aspect of their work that is too often invisible to the people they aim to serve: their ethics policies. Your audience is definitely not giving you automatic credit for having consistent ethical principles at the core of your work and your day-to-day decision making. A lot of times we review ethics policies when we're hired for a new job. We might even sign something saying we've read them. But it can be a good idea to take stock of what is actually included in those principles and policies and how familiar you are with them. What do you share with the public? Do you have a public-facing ethics page on your website? What do you have that's in play internally, rules and guidelines you're supposed to be following? And are you aware of what your organization's preferences and policies are in terms of what gets shared with the public? Often management and even a legal team will want to weigh in on that. There are a lot of things that can be included in public-facing ethics policies. Here's some examples. Accuracy, how you work to be accurate and correct, and what you do if a correction is needed. Independence from financial and business interests, and also from political interests. A commitment to diversity, both on staff and in sourcing. Other sourcing issues, such as criteria if a source wishes to remain anonymous. What you mean when you say off the record, and how often you allow that to happen. Conflicts of interest on your staff if they arise. Photo and video ethical considerations. Once you gather those things together, how should your audience find them? You can create an ethics landing page on your website or make it part of your About Us page. See if you can make that page easily findable. Is it in your main navigation? How many clicks does it take to get there from your website? You might even try promoting it independently in separate standalone social media posts. Mention it on air. Link to it in newsletters and within stories. Here's how our ethical policies informed today's journalism. Newsrooms can get justifiably nervous talking about policies and inviting the public to hold them accountable for enforcing the same rules 100% of the time. News is a messy business. If that's the case, find ways to talk about your standard practices. Try to use language like "we often handle it this way," or we our intention is to handle it this way. It doesn't always have to be about hard and fast rules. Your audience has so many questions and misassumptions about how you do your work, and there are things that can be addressed when talking about your ethics. How do you handle identifying crime victims? And how do you cover crime in a way that's fair? Who owns your news organization, and do the people in ownership influence editorial decisions? What happens if somebody calls the newsroom and asks you to take a story down? Do you let people see your reporting notes? Look for chances to talk about these things, both in general and as they affect day-to-day stories. Some newsrooms, like these examples from the Virginian pilot, create stories, just story pages on their website that answer those questions. The pilots include why we sometimes use anonymous sources and how we vet those sources. Once you have created that content, it gives you something you can link back to each and every time you allow a source to remain unnamed. WCPO looked for an opportunity to talk about their corporate ownership scripts that was just down the road, but how the journalism decisions were made day to day by the managers in the newsroom. Then look for ways to point out day-to-day decisions and how they rely on those principles. Think about all the times your newsroom gathers around a desk to discuss how big a deal to make of a story, whether to show a video, how to handle a source, whether something is credible. Our audience has no idea that we do those things unless we talk about them. So in this case, WCNC took that picture from the newsroom and wrote a story about decisions they made for a specific daily story. Remember, to get credit for your ethics, they have to be visible to your audience.